Okay, so let's try this again. Brothers and sisters of the brush, welcome to your first episode of The Brush Off Show with your host, Chris Grundy. For those of you who do not know me, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about myself. I have a small business doing plaster, paint, and popcorn removal here in Toronto, where I was born and raised. I'm heading into my 25th year in the industry next season, and I opened my own business in 2003. About 21 years into my career, about 4 years ago, I started joining some Facebook groups, some of them quite large, and, starting to talk to other painters and whatnot, and I watched guys upload their videos, their photos, and stuff like that. And some of it, you kind of scratch your head and you say, why is this guy posting that? Then there's the ones where it's like, why have I been doing the things that I've been doing the way I've been doing them for the last 21 years? So you start switching it up. Thanks to you guys. A lot of my routines on my jobs have changed. Some of them have become a lot easier, and production is a lot better. Which brings me to my guest, Shane Woods. About almost 3 years ago, I met Shane in one of the larger groups. Shane was doing a lot of popcorn removal back then, and like I do, and he had the Festool system, which I was totally intrigued by. So I sent Shane a direct message. We chit-chatted for a while, did a couple of video calls and whatnot, and basically Shane convinced me that I needed one of these machines in my life. Thanks to Shane, I'm broke. Just kidding, Shane. Anyways, let's bring Shane into the thing here.
What do you have there? Okay.
Shane, hit the join button, buddy.
There it is. How about that?
Okay. Can you see me?
I can see you. Yeah.
Brianna, is Shane on that screen up there? Oh, here we go. All right, perfect. Shane, how you doing, buddy?
Good, brother. Good.
Good to see you. It's good to see you. Listen, I just wanted to start out by thanking you for all the support that you gave me after I bought my Festool machine.
Right on.
I remember the one time, you might remember it pretty clearly. I forgot the time difference that we had on a Sunday morning. We're only an hour different. I gave you a call at 7:30 my time in the morning, 6:30 your time, and you were still willing to take that call. Hey, Chris, how you doing, buddy? Yeah. You remember that call, Shane?
I do. I really do.
Sunday, I was starting my first previously painted popcorn removal with the Festool system. I didn't know what grit of paper I should buy or anything. I didn't want to go into the store, looking like a tool saying, I don't know, I'm about to do this job, but I don't know what I need to do it. So I gave you a call, man, and you've always been there for me, so I wanted to thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Right on. No problem. It was really weird because I'm like, dude, it's Sunday, and you're like, man, I live in the city that never sleeps, and I'll never forget that. You're like, this city's open 24/7. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that's it. The city that never sleeps, similar to Vegas, right?
Yeah, right. So, that's where I'll be going Monday.
Right on. Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we're going to the SEMA show with Apollo Sprayers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, Shane, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself to start out with?
Well, first off, I'd like to introduce, I got a couple of homeboys here. We got Anthony Cade from Cade Painting and Drywall. They're in Illinois. And then I've got John Knotts.
How's it going, Chris?
They got you on Instagram and Facebook. So we were just hanging out tonight, and I was like, hey, guys, I got to do a real quick radio talk show. And they were like, we'll hang out. So you got all three of us tonight. So
right on. I appreciate that.
Referring back to the posse for any support if I get jammed up on a question I don't know.
No problem, man.
The answer
it's
to.
Be pretty easy. You're a smart guy. You know what you're doing here. So, first of all, let's get into, how long have you been in the business, in the trade?
Well, my dad's a builder and my mom's an artist and a jeweler. So I, was around the job sites growing up in the summer times every day with my dad. By the time I got about 13 or 14, I was expected to go with the electricians, go with the drywall guys, go with the roofers. Then I started riding bulls at 14, so I would work during the week to get enough money for entry fees on Friday. And then if I rode bulls good enough, I made enough money that I didn't have to shovel roofing tar the next week. So I had some motivation on kicking them bulls real hard and you know, sitting pretty on them. But, you know, 14, 15, by the time I was 16, I was running crews and I was, you know, kind of handling jobs. I started painting cars as a junior in high school, and that's where I really fell in love with the spray gun and just couldn't get enough of it. I vowed that I was going to paint, you know, race cars. That's what I saw NASCAR, and I saw the beautiful, you know, paint jobs on those, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And it's been a cool ride, but let's see, I started my painting company when I was 19. I was working for some union hands that they were fresh out of the union, and it was like boot camp. I mean, you know, if you didn't show up to work in painter's whites with a 5-in-1 and a duster brush in your pocket, you went home. And so it really was a good, you know, foundation for me to learn job site etiquette and the way, you know, that you're supposed to act as a craftsman. And, you know, the first 6 months I didn't paint. I just sanded and puttied baseboards, and, you know, then I got to paint a closet, and I was like, oh yeah. And then I would spray a barn or something on the side and just started honing it. And then finally I got tired of making $6 an hour. So I started subbing, you know, work from different realtors and stuff like that, and ended up building it into a business that had 12 employees. I painted every Diamond, Shamrock, and Texaco that went up, the gas stations in the state of Texas. For 2 years, I painted everything that they did for this one big contractor. I had about 12 employees, and at the time, I think I was doing close to $30,000 a month gross. It was going pretty good. I was also in the student ministry in church, and I was really feeling you know, the call to share the good news of what the Lord has done for us. And it got to a point to where I was taking a lot of out-of-town jobs, and my church life, you know, kind of got put on the back burner, and I was hanging around, you know, just construction guys on the job site in hotels and stuff like that. And it wasn't long that, you know, I kind of started, you know, slipping in some areas. And then, you know, we had insurance. So at one point I thought, well, I'll just go to the doctor. I was having all kinds of, you know, anxiety and issues, you know, from just life, you know, in life's terms. And I didn't like it. So I went and asked the doctor if he had anything for me. And he prescribed me Xanax, 1 milligram. Mm-hmm. And by the time I finished that bottle of 30, I was a monster. I could not get enough mind-altering substance to, you know, numb the pain of just failing. And I ended up getting in trouble for stealing Xanax out of customers' bathrooms. I haven't really even told that yet. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, I used to, you know, just hanging around with the wrong crowd. And about 18 years of, you know, trying to kick pretty much all the time and always falling back into it. The only thing I did have going for me is that I was an ace craftsman. So I could go to Telluride, Colorado and make $30 an hour. I could zip over to Aspen and work and ski. You know, I could go to Seattle, and, you know, I just basically my trade had and my skills had made room for me, you know, everywhere I went. Mm-hmm. But it just didn't take long before I'd get to a town, and you know, 6-8 months I'd find the dope dealer, and next thing you know, it just everything go on the back burner. So I kind of took about 8 years off and got into the medical marijuana you know, trade, and I started growing you know, medical marijuana in Colorado, and then again moved to Seattle and grew there. And just I never had the ability to do the business part of construction. I always had the ability to do the work, but I never could keep it together. I couldn't pre-qualify my leads. I didn't know how to, you know, command authority. And, you know, it just takes a while to plant those seeds as a business and to start reaping the benefits. So by the time I would start getting a name out there, I would, you know, be messing up. So I got to the point to where when I moved here to St. Louis, I relapsed again, and about 2 weeks into this relapse, I got a hold of that St. Louis heroin, and it was some pretty powerful stuff. About 2 weeks into it, I'm back up to a gram a day, and I'd realized at that point that I'd had enough, that there was just no way that I could continue, the road that I'd been on. I mean, no one would talk to me, my children. I'd completely, just your typical, deadbeat dad and drug addict, mentality. I was always a nice guy. I was a good dude, but I just had a drug problem,
Right.
So I'd come to the conclusion that the only way that I was going to, stop the roaring in my head was to commit suicide. And I wrestled all night long with that thought. And the next morning when I was going to do it, my buddy didn't go to work. And I just broke down and told him kind of what I was going through. And he took me to Barnes Jewish Hospital, where I checked myself in, and they put me in a paper gown on the 3rd floor. And I ended up having one of the worst detoxes, I think, in the history of man. I mean, they put me cold turkey from a gram a day, and it was rough, man. I don't know if you've ever messed with any opiates, but coming off of that, it's like having the Hong Kong flu and getting beat with a baseball bat. I mean, it's pretty bad. And so I just called out to the Lord, and I felt His presence come in that hospital room where I was at, and He gave me 2 choices. And that was either to continue to do drugs and live a life of complete failure, or to help people. And at the time, I really didn't know what I had to benefit anyone else. I knew pretty much that I could help you, put a cocktail together that would ease your pain. And if you wanted to have a good time, I could put things together to kind of take you on a pretty good trip. But that wasn't the case. He just asked me again, you can either do drugs or help people. So I said, okay, well, I've always enjoyed helping people. And at that point, when I believe I signed that spiritual contract, all of my acute withdrawal symptoms went away. And I got up out of the hospital bed, and I walked to the end of the hallway, and I looked out the window, and I believed that a shadow of a doubt, I heard that there was something here for me in St. Louis. And at the time, I didn't know anyone here. This was June 27th of 2018, so just not too long ago. It was, and to correct you, we've known each other for 2 years, not 3.
Okay.
But yeah, so 2 years
well,
ago,
you know what they say, Shane. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Time flies. Yeah. It's. I mean, we just. Yeah. But it's different because it's like when you're connected on Facebook, and I get to see you walking your dog. I get to see your child be born and raised and all. I get to see all. I feel like we're, spend time together all the time, and we've never actually really met. But
exactly, yeah.
It's pretty cool to be connected like that. But anyway, when I went into intense treatment, and I finished the intense treatment, and I went into a men's home. And while I was in this men's home, of course, they were asking me, what do you do? What have you done? And I mean, I didn't know how to tell them, look, I'm probably one of the best craftsmen painting, decorative, fine finish guys you ever seen. So I just kind of would roll a wall here or paint something there or do a statuary bronze hammered finish on a ceiling here or some faux bois wood graining over here. And it just, I got into the groups. And whenever I heard of a guy named Troy McNeely, and he was talking about how he helps painters scale their business. And I started researching him a little bit, and I did a message with him. Basically, I found out that you could get a coach, someone to teach you the right way to do business. And I found the Contractor Fight with Tom Rubin, and I started, listening to how to change my sales process, how to, again, establish authority in the beginning, and to really just set the precedence of how the job's going to go, and then also how to pre-qualify my clients where I knew the kind of people that would appreciate me, and I would look for how to stay out of those sticky situations where people don't want to pay you and people don't appreciate you and they Jew you down. And I don't mean to say it like that, but they wiggle you down on price. And and it gave me hope again. So I met a guy locally on the Painters Chat Room that you talked about, and he offered me to help him on one of his jobs, like a 124-piece kitchen. And I was like, sure, yeah, I'll come help you. And we were using General Finishes and Duropoly, and I'd sprayed, like 6 or 7 doors. And when I turned around and looked, and they were all just perfect, and everything was the first time I'd ever used that type of finish. And everybody's mouth just dropped open. The post that he did went viral, and everybody within 100 miles was like, who painted those cabinets? And I just started getting a name for myself. So I never really tried to, go back into business. I wanted to just serve. And so I found a youth ministry here that, Urban K-Life, and they were mentoring high school youth. And, a lot of the young men that I in this ministry, high school age in this particular, geographical location, they're, without going into detail, their family life is tough. There's usually not a father present, and usually never had any positive male role models that had any type of career or trade. In the late 60s, they deindustrialized all of these inner cities, and they closed down all the factories, and they quit teaching kids in school how to, work with their hands, and any vocational things just were eliminated. And so we're dealing with like the 4th generation of that. And, it's not necessarily just people that look like us. It's the enemy that attacked a certain, culture and a certain group of people, and it worked. And so I started teaching kids how to to change a doorknob, or how to check the oil in a lawnmower, or how to cut grass, or how to weed eat, and it just turned into I could see all the talent in the world, but there was no opportunity for these young men to be able to branch out and learn anything new.
Right.
And so I ended up getting, another cabinet job. And then at the youth ministry where I live and work, we cleared out a room, which is now my paint shop, and just started, paying kids to scrub doors and sand doors, and, help me spray doors and stuff like that. And it just blew up. And I found industrial wood coatings from Italy. And that really allowed me to just completely, hone in on one particular thing. Like you said before, I was doing popcorn removal and sheetrock patches and stuff like that just because it was there, and people asked me to. So I'm like, yeah, if I'm going to do popcorn removal, I'm going to get a Festool Planix with a harness. And so we go in and we get that, and then I had to master that. It took me about a month of almost killing myself before I got it, tuned in. But once I got it tuned in, I thought, you know what? I don't want anybody to have to suffer like I suffered for the whole month. So I started mentally, acting like as if I was teaching someone, and figuring out how to, share the tricks of, different things about, different things. And I do a live video, and there'd be just people like yourself that are like, man, tell me more about that. And so every time my phone rings at 6:30 in the morning on a Sunday, I remember that contract that I signed with the Lord. It's to help people. So I just think that you look at me helping you, but a lot of people don't understand what it's like to be on this side of helping people. I mean, I don't think there's a greater feeling than to know that you genuinely save somebody, time, or allowed them to, be able to do a job, easier and faster, and with the knowledge that, and we come from a generation that a lot of the people that before us, they wouldn't share any of these secrets because they didn't want their competition to compete. They always wanted to leg up on everybody else. So they wouldn't tell you that they put, a drop of Penetrol and a drop of mineral spirit. they wouldn't share, their processes or anything because it was kind of a tight knit thing.
Right.
Well, being the fact that I always worked for those guys, I always learned, from them, and then felt like I didn't want people to, have to learn the hard way like I did. So if I came across something that I felt would help someone, I'd pop on and do a live video and just kind of show how I was doing it. And at first it was hard because, at the time I was 60 pounds heavier than I am now. And, I just was not comfortable with being on camera. My voice sounded different, when I was listening. My face was round, my teeth were crooked, and it was like, if I just videoed it and waited till I got home, I would watch it and I would never post it because I'm an idiot, So I'm like, okay, well, here's the deal. We're just gonna go live, and if I mess up, I mess up. If it goes good, it goes good. And so I also don't want to miss this part. Troy McNeely, told me one day. He said, "Look, you're not a painting contractor anymore." He said, "You're the leading expert in cabinet refinishing." And I was like, you know what? Okay, so I took all of that. It took about 6 months or so before I wasn't rolling walls and stuff, but I just quit taking jobs that weren't in my niche, So now when you walk through, my shop, every toolbox has just cabinet stuff in it, refinishing stuff in it. Every paint can that's in my shop has something to do with fine finishing. So all of my stuff is honed in. And then with cabinets, there's enough in there that it'll keep you busy, and it'll keep you working systems out, but there's only so many variables. I mean, I guess it's like a ceiling. You've either got an 8-foot ceiling or a 10-foot ceiling. It's not like there's a whole lot of different popcorns out there. It's like pretty much the niche. You're kind of getting into something where you can work out a system. You can work out your numbers. You can kind of figure out how much per foot you need to charge. How much material it takes for that particular thing. So just getting good at one thing was kind of what I concentrated on, and trying to share any tips or secrets that I came up with or that I had learned, or that I had just basically problem solved. And it really has it's just blown up. I mean, I can't believe how. I mean, we're up to almost 4,000 people on Facebook, and it probably 4 or 5 times a day, every day, I get messages from people about, what needle I use or what pressure setting for this, or, what kind of primer for this. And it's nice. I mean, it gets a little invasive sometimes when, and as of right now, I've been telling people Friday afternoon till Monday morning, I'm just kind of like, man, hit me back during business hours, and I always feel bad for about 30 minutes after I do that. I like this last weekend, I picked up my phone 2 or 3 times to be like, what was it that you need? Go ahead, tell me. But I need to, probably do like a 1 hour, ask me anything live or something like that. But, a lot of times people like today, my buddy Clint was on a job and he was having just a horrible time and couldn't get anything right. And he reached out to me, and I'm doing a master class. I've got somebody here, paying me to teach them how to work, and I'm having to. But it was something that I really believe that we can help people out of little tight fixes, and because it's hard to guess, and when you're living riding on something coming out pretty, you get really emotionally invested in it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Shane, let's take a minute. You mentioned a master's class. I know you were doing, some training with guys. You want to touch on that? Is it something that you're offering for people to come down and take is it a course you're offering? Like, give me a little bit of information on that.
I do a little bit more of kind of a one-on-one private, classes. So, we're working a lot with people like Louis Hasso and the industry to, create formal training at like high-tech facilities that we're going to be doing like a tour of America, and we'll go into, different cities for a couple of days, and then, there'll be a calendar up in January about where we'll be and, what we'll be teaching on. But like, for instance, we just went to Chicago to the Exalta training facility, and we did a 2-day class on. We did a bunch of different finish schedules. I don't even know what they were called, but just a bunch of different panels, and it was really cool to get in there and let the guys that are actually trained as instructors, let them kind of do the instructing part. But so what I'm doing here at my shop is just kind of an introductory to spray techniques, and kind of came up with a system that we named the Hyperbond system, and it basically has a layering process that ensures each coat sticks to the coat before. And then we use industrial polys with catalysts that have a hardener. So the whole, mixing that up and the different rules and how to use it, we just kind of go over that informally. But I'm not really putting it out there yet. It's just kind of when it's case by case, because what happened was I did do a pretty large master class, and I had a bunch of people here. And there were people that really shouldn't even have been spraying cabinets, were spraying cabinets. And it was like, hold on, you've never even held a brush, and you want to start doing this high level stuff. So I wanted to run away as far away as I could at the moment. But I just think that, having a little bit better vetting process on, trying to find where the person's at, and being able to focus on one person, maybe even two. But having a whole classroom of people is just, the skill level is all over the place. So where the advanced guys, are already on the third step, I'm still back here teaching Miss Julie, how to, hold the gun. So there are a couple other, classes out there that people that are doing it, but I'm not really trying to offer a whole lot of that right now. But if somebody needs help, I'll be glad to help.
Of course, you're Shane Woods. Why would you not, right? I want to say I watch all your videos. I want to say I watch the majority of the videos that you post. I can't remember. You had a young guy there. I think it was his name Andre.
DeAndre, yeah. DeAndre's my senior apprentice, yeah.
DeAndre. I watched that guy start from literally not knowing anything.
Mm-hmm.
How's Andre doing now, DeAndre?
I'm telling you, well, of course he's 17, so he's chasing that the pretty girls, and it's kind of hard to, he's got a pretty decent home life, so he's not really needing any money right now, but he shows up a couple of times a month and just actually kills it. Whenever he was helping me do that black table,
yes.
He told me the other day, he said, when I seen my reflection in that table, he said, I knew we were going to be famous. And so, he's got the finishing bug, and he can spray just as good as any grown man can. But he's not ready to commit to, a job yet, but he's there. And we've been planting seeds with probably, 20 different young men that have come around and have kind of gotten exposure to what the culture of excellence feels like, and you've got to stay focused and stay committed, and, just teaching them how not to get mad at the hole you're digging, not get mad at the cabinet door you're sanding, and just try to look at the end result. And then, I stick money in their hand because, there's a lot of examples set for them where, they can go out and make a couple moves and get some money real quick, and there's an allure to that. So trying to get them to understand that, with hard work and labor and dedication, you can get that money, and it's clean money, and it's your money. And then you get to lay down at night, and your conscience is clear. It's powerful. It's the messiest, most unproductive thing that I've ever done, but it's the most rewarding that I think. Yeah. So yeah, he's doing great, man. He's like a badge on my chest. He's like a star on my crown. He's a success story, and I'm really thankful to be a part of his life. But again, if you heard the wisdom that comes from if you heard some of the thoughts that these young men have, it's spooky. It's like, they're way ahead on grown-up things, way ahead than they should be, they're further ahead in maturity than they should be at these young ages, and it really blows me away.
Yeah, right on. Did you want to go over any of the machinery, any of the sprayers and stuff that you use for your
Uh,
fine finishes?
well, you can't say anything fine finish without talking about the Apollo. The Apollo sprayers, the HVOP, they were the originators of the HVOP back in the 60s, and they have had all of the technology jumps that have basically set the precedence for all the other HVOP companies. The Apollo 7700 gun, 7700 gun right now, it atomizes better than anything I've ever used. I mean, every time that you see anything that I've done, and it's just perfect. It's easy because of the Apollo sprayers, and the turbine that they have really puts out a lot of CFMs, and it's a very powerful turbine. And they support my cause. They've actually donated machines that I can use to teach these young men. They've sent me to Vegas. I've been to Miami. I've been to Chicago and San Jose, and going back to Miami, Vegas next week for the SEMA show with Apollo. So they're just an amazing company, American-made company, and the service is really good, and he cares about us end users. But I'm just really thankful to be a part of what they're doing. And the other huge innovation that we have is Surf Prep. The Surf Prep sanding company, they have a foam abrasive that can contour to all the profiles. So no longer do I have to hand sand on anything curvy. I can use those foam abrasives that really mold to that. So it's what used to take me about 3 hours is taking me a little over an hour now. So it just really helps. Sanding sucks. That should be a hashtag. I mean, it's like it's not fun to sand, but when you have Surf Prep sanders and you have Festool Planexes and you have Apollo sprayers, it's like it's a recipe for success. I don't know how many times I've had stuff spraying, sideways, and I had to deal with it, because I needed to get it done, and it's like things falling apart and leaking and coming out crazy, and it's no longer any guesswork in finishing for me. I can set it, and I know that I'm getting a consistent finish, and that's what helps. When we don't have to do rework, it really gets the job done faster, get the check faster.
Right on, right on. Any big things coming up for 2020?
Well, Elite Fine Finish, be watching for that brand.
Say that one again, sorry.
Elite Fine Finish. Louis Hasso is the originator of that whole thing, and we are going to be doing consulting and different brand representations. Working with all the top coating companies, the Italian coatings like Malaysia and Renner. We're going to be doing, going to different distributors and inviting people from the area to come and try these different products and to look at what's out there. Most people, cabinets are a really big phase right now. Everybody's wanting their cabinets painted, and of course, every paint store on the corner has got something for them. And so, trying to get people to have exposure that there are industrial wood coatings that aren't really offered to the public. They're really for commercial accounts only, and teaching people how to get their own commercial account, teaching people how to rely on the professionals in the industry to give you support and service instead of just somebody behind the counter in a blue shirt. Having people that comes out to your shop and that can look at what you've got coming and be able to teach you how to do a finish that you can really stand behind. They're already doing the hard part, getting it masked, getting it clean, getting it sanded, getting it all set up. That's the hard part. Choosing the right materials and using the right equipment, that's the easy part. But that's the difference that's going to make, the main thing is that I want guys to be able to make a profit, a good profit. I want them to be able to do it without working 7 days a week. And I don't want them to have callbacks because paint's chipping off, So just, trying to help people through the whole process. It's really given me, a good inspiration, I should say.
Right. Shane, we have a local painter here in Toronto that made these spray guards for light switches, electrical plates. I sent you down
Oh,
10 or
yeah.
12 of them. I never got any
Yeah.
feedback. Can I get some feedback on these guys?
Well, never mind. I'll get them later. Man, I'm going to tell you what. Those things, we need to, Anthony, I need to show you these. Hold on. I'm going to show Anthony real quick. Let me get, hold on, what is that? I can't do it. I have it. Okay. So these are, I'm going to hand them to Anthony. They go over receptacles, light switches, and plugs.
If I should have brought an empty socket with me so I could have demonstrated how beautiful this thing is for anyone who's doing some spraying.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
I'm going to give him a couple to take and try as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so again, it's just a local painter. I think he came out with it about 7-8 years ago. I was speaking to him about a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that he did a soft launch. So he hasn't really put anything out there. So I thought, well, why not send it down to Shane? Actually, speaking of which, I was supposed to send some down to Nick May.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't get around to that. So, Nick, if you end up watching this, you will get your little covers. I'll
Right.
get them out there for you soon.
Well,
But
we need to
so
probably
if
send
you
some
know a way
Shane
that we
Garrett.
can get some of these shared, you know, if anyone wants
Okay.
to buy some of these, I'm sure we can work something out.
What does pare pientiere mean?
This is parlez-vous français. You know parlez-vous français?
Suelo franc? No,
Yeah.
I don't. I
We're
have no
bilingual
idea.
up here. Speak
Okay.
French and English.
You make up your mind, guys.
I speak English, no French.
No French.
But everything
Uh,
here it has to be French and English. So I hope none of the Quebecers are watching the show and seeing my sign is not a bilingual one. So please forgive me for that, folks. But that's what that is. It's just anything up here like cereal, whatever you're buying, paint cans. It's all English and French. Are you guys
Wow.
not Spanish on your labels, or is it just if the company wants to?
No, some places in Texas where I'm from, they have some border towns that have some, Spanish stuff. But most of the time, what you'll see in cities here in America is, in the United States, is the Spanish people will have their own little towns. They'll have their own little geographical, and then, in that town, everything is, in that community, everything is, that particular way. So everything is pretty segregated into, Chinatown, Spanish town. I don't know what to call it, but it doesn't have, most things just have English on it.
Okay. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. So just a couple more things. The second last thing I want to know is for anyone that's about to start out in the business, whether they're going to work for a company or whether they're going out on their own, your best advice that you wish that you would have received, or maybe you did receive it but want to pass that information on to the newbies, let's call them.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Show up early, stay late, and just clean. If you just walk around cleaning all day long on a job site, you'll have a job. Even if you can't cut a line or float, skim a wall, you could clean stuff. So, don't be afraid. My first requirement when you come to work for me is that you have to mess up. Guys are so afraid to take ownership of their mess ups. There's really an emotional, psychological block that keeps you from trying new things if you're afraid to mess up. So, show up early, stay late, ask questions, and clean. That's kind of, look the part, buy invest something, every check and some hand tools, and don't cheat on your time card, and, just keep everything organized. Act like you paid for it. It's treat your tools like, they're yours.
That's it.
And, yeah.
Hey, we got
I
Mickey
feel like
Mickey
that
the
was good,
Painter.
good advice. Huh?
I said Mickey the Painter is here. You know Mickey the Painter, the funny Aussie guy?
Yeah, I do. What's up,
Guy kills
Mickey?
me. Guy kills me every time.
Yeah.
So the last thing, Shane, I don't know if it's embarrassing or not, but I wanted to go over. I know you do a lot of stuff at the K Life Center. I totally have the utmost respect for you, giving back to your community. I want to go back to your little Walking Tall episode. You want to tell us about that? I know you know what I'm talking about, Shane.
No, I don't mind talking. I'm actually thankful that
Let's go over that whole story. I mean, you can keep it a little short, but what happened and then the outcome. At the end of the day, I want to know,
right.
good things happen to good people, right? So
We were, we're in North City, St. Louis, the most dangerous zip code in America. There's, it's pretty violent and the crime rate is pretty high. We're in a really good spot, though. We have a 29,000 square foot facility that used to be a nursing home, and it's on a 3-acre plot with barbed wire fence around it. And it's in the corner, and the community pretty much knows that it's a church youth ministry, so we don't really get any problems. But we had someone break in one night, 2 guys with hoods on, and stole about $10,000 worth of stuff. They stole some of my sanders, they stole screw guns and stuff like that, all of our lawn equipment. And so I woke up that next morning and was like, oh man, we got hit. I did a live that day, you saw that. 2 days later, I didn't sleep the next night. But the night after that, I was so exhausted from the night before not sleeping that I passed out at like 11. I never sleep in my skivvies. I always sleep with a t-shirt on in my skivvies. But because we had the fan going in the breaker room where the camera was, it blew out the pilot light on the commercial boiler. So I went to take a shower at 11 o'clock and the water never got hot. And I'm like, heck with it. So I fell in bed. 5 o'clock in the morning, I heard a bump and I jumped up. And the noise that I heard was a door behind my room that never gets open. It's a storage room. So I knew, oh, they're back. I jumped out of bed and I grabbed a baseball bat. I could have grabbed a shotgun, but I didn't. I just grabbed a baseball bat. And I busted out of my room and I went down the hall. When I went through the door, there was 2 guys about 5 feet from me, with masks on. And I had that baseball bat in my hand, and when they saw me, they turned and just booked it. And again, with that long nursing home hallway, I was following them, and as I was following them, I was hitting that aluminum bat on the ground. Boom, bang, bang. I was like, I got you on video. And they turned to go into one of the rooms, and that was a good thought, because then I thought, okay, well, there's 2 of them. They'll have to fight me through a doorway now. I'm not going to have to, I can bottleneck them like on 300, And they jumped out of a closed window, through the window, closed, commercial window. But by the time I got to the door and looked and they were gone, I was actually kind of impressed. I was like, I wasn't even mad. I was like, wow, they just jumped out of a closed window. So I turned around and I'm thinking immediately defensively, okay, I got to call the law. And I'm thinking no one's going to believe me that I chased them. And I'm like, but wait, it should be on camera. And about that time I looked up and there was the camera right on me in my underwear. And I just thought I'd give them a, victory. I kind of pumped the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I look a lot better without my clothes on now, but at the time I was just starting my weight loss journey. I don't care. I mean, that's why I posted it, because it was too good not to share.
It was really good. It was really good.
But to answer your question, the outcome of that, we ended up having the news media come out, and I think we've raised over $20,000 in donations, because we've had everything replaced with bigger and better. The weed eater, we got a bigger weed eater, better steel weed eater. We got the lawnmower, Apollo sprayers, replaced that. Surf Prep sent me all the sanders that were taken. We had a donor that paid to have our security system completely revamped. So now we have a state-of-the-art security system that I can set at night and sleep well knowing that nobody can get in. And since then, we've had 2 more break-ins, too. But now I've got the old ghetto window lock board in every window. So we stopped a lot of that. But I tell people now, if you make it past the Angels, you can have whatever you want in here, because that was something that we really were trying to bring awareness for this ministry and what we're trying to do. And being able to understand that those guys that jumped out the window are out there mentoring young men on how to do crime.
Exactly.
So what more of a reason for us to get out and try to, grab a hold of some of these young men and teach them how to make a living, with their hands. It's a big deal. So we've got a 10,000 square foot wing of this hospital, nursing home turned into youth ministry that we want to donate. We want to dedicate it to, the School of Industrial Arts, and we want to teach everything from drywall, plumbing, electrical, even robotics, remote control cars, drone, 3D printers. We want to have all kinds of, options for men and women to be able to come in here and say, hey, we're going to have a hydroponic indoor, grow facility. Of course, it's going to be produce, but you could train with the thought that, with the medical marijuana industry coming, you could have a nice career if you know how to grow plants in water inside. It's a pretty neat, trade to have. Did you go silent?
No, I think you there?
I'm there.
Where was Shigo during this break-in there?
She was snoring.
I didn't. Well, this was a few months back, and it's just coming to me now. Wait a minute! I saw Shane running with a bat, chasing these guys on the hallway. Where's his dog?
No. Unless you've got a hat on or you're carrying a big bag, she won't bark at you. She barked at a guy with crutches, but she's trained not to be aggressive. She's also trained to not go up to people and
detected at your
invited.
front door.
So she'll sit there and wag her tail until you say, "Come on," and then she'll come up to you. So. Yeah, I didn't get the whole, if she had any type of, mean dog in her, I couldn't have her here because it's already, it's already pretty scary. So Shigo helps inner city kids get comfortable with animals again. A lot of them are just deathly scared of dogs, and rightly should be. Yeah, she's just a big snuggle bug. I mean, I think if it was, I was still asleep. And I don't think that she knew it was going on until it was already. I mean, it happened like 6 seconds. The whole thing was over.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right on. Well, Shane, I know I told you I'd keep you for about 20 minutes, and we're nearly rounding an hour here.
That's all right.
So
You're paying me by the hour. Let's keep it going.
Jeez. Right. Well, I'm glad I never had to use my retake and make people forget what happened. So that was good. You made this first episode of the Brush Off Show. That's why I chose you, Shane. I knew that you were going to carry the show for this episode. I was going to sit back and do the right?
Mm-hmm.
Ask a couple questions. You carried the show for an hour, my brother.
Right on. Well, I've enjoyed it.
I just want to, again, thank you for all the support that you've given me. I don't know when I would have found out about Festool without seeing your videos a couple years ago. My jobs go so much smoother. I know you made me pick up the harness. I haven't used the harness, you see.
Yeah, well, give it about 6 years and a bunch of icy hot.
I know we spoke there last week on the phone, and you were telling me that you finished up with popcorn, and you don't see me doing it too much longer because the back and the bones and. I hope I got another 10 years of this, at least with the popcorn removal.
Dude, I watch you flow them ceilings out like a machine, dude. And it's like, that's the hardest thing to do in the whole career of remodeling, to remove popcorn from ceilings and to float ceilings out. It doesn't get any harder than that.
The floating, it's like, I learned how to float the mud almost without sanding before I had Festool, because obviously we know we don't want to leave lines. The more lines, the more unevenness, the more sanding. But I used to go home and look like I was doing drugs. My nose was so full of white dust. It was crazy. But yeah, without your support, and it's not only turning me on to Festool, it's the support. Like, I feel like Festool owes you something, man. They owe you something. Even if
Well,
it's a simple thank you, you
I
know.
tell you what's more valuable to me is every time that you do something that I've helped you with is if you'll just say a little prayer for me. To
Absolutely.
me, that's more valuable than anything
Absolutely.
festival could give me.
I
So,
appreciate you,
and I
man.
mean that. I mean that.
I don't often tell Amanda I love them. I tell my son that, and I tell my dad that, but I love you, Shane.
All
You're
right,
great.
on, bro.
You're great, man.
Well,
And one day
we're
I will make it down there to you, and we will physically get to shake hands.
well. Canada won't let me in, so I can't come see you.
Yes, I know. We'd have to meet. Well, you can get up as far as Buffalo, right? That's only about an hour and a half away.
Right on.
I pick you
All
up on
right,
the jet
Shane.
ski from there. We skip the border. Shane, man, well,
Yeah,
I love your story. You know, that's
right on.
another thing that I really respected about you is that you weren't hiding what you were, and it's great. I love your story. That's why another reason why I wanted you to come on is, your story is amazing. How basically, I think it was maybe just before we kind of started seeing each other on Facebook that you were almost down and out, right? When you made your rise up.
Well, it
It's
depends
around
on
that
what's.
time,
Uh,
like your
uh,
most recent.
well, when I had a bunch of bids out on the old company outline that I was doing, and once I realized and I'd done the reverse engineering and reverse calculating and realized that I wasn't making any money and that the next 25 jobs that I had wasn't going to make any money, I had to shut it all down and completely just revamp how I was going to do it. And the reason that I did it for high production volume, and I was going to pump out a bunch of cabinets, and it just backfired on me. So I stopped and said, okay, instead of getting the quantity, I'm going to back up and get the quality ones, do the work myself, and just kind of control it that way, because it just made me a nervous wreck to have things just breaking and falling apart and people mad at me and behind schedule and stuff. So I just shut it down, and the people that I had put in place to handle different responsibilities, and I delegated it to, they crashed and burned. So I mean, I know it looked like I had a breakdown right there, but it was basically just knowing my numbers and realizing that, hey, what I have set myself up for is not success. So just shutting it down and redoing it. But to touch on that about my story and being open with it, I think that everybody watching this video knows someone that has been rocked by opioid or heroin. And I bet you pretty much everybody that's watching this video has lost someone that they love from opioids or heroin. And I believe that it's going to just take someone that broke those chains, sharing with other people who are chained up, and just trying to help get that mental game beat, because you feel like crap for a long time when you come off of those drugs. And, knowing that it'll get better. When you look at my eyes and you see, where I'm at now, and then you think about, 29 months ago, how I didn't even want to live anymore. There's something to that, and I want to share that because, I didn't come with anything within myself to get myself out of. I got assistance from another realm, and I believe that assistance is available to, anybody that'll call on it. And I think cabinets are just an excuse, man. Festool is just an excuse for us to learn to become one, just as Jesus and the Father are one. And so as much as I love you, I'm supposed to love you more than I love myself. And the funny thing is that, I'm looking at you and you're looking at me, but God enjoys looking at you through my eyes, and he enjoys looking at me through your eyes. And to be connected and realize that we are all living off of each other, connected in some sort of way. I haven't really figured it out yet, but I believe that, we as humans are a lot more powerful, and we have a lot more, abilities than they taught us that we did. I think that we're going to, before long, as we, get closer to the end of the road for life as we know it, I think that we're going to be getting a measure of an anointing that's going to really you know, it's going to be very powerful. It is very powerful. So,
Gotcha. Right
yeah.
on, right on. Well, Shane, like I said, I won't keep you. I really appreciate your time this evening.
Yes, sir.
Just before I let you go, I'm just going to let everybody know that next Tuesday, we're going to switch up the time so that we can, because we're going around the globe, I'm going to switch up the time. I believe we're heading over to England to speak with Nathan from Nice Decor. So we're going to be shooting for around maybe 5 p.m. next Tuesday, which is 10 p.m. in his time. And then we'll figure out something for the Aussies, like maybe Nick or Painting by Josh. Maybe one of these guys will join us one day. But Shane,
I've seen a
it's been a
bunch of good
pleasure.
people
I'm
that I
glad
know
you
there.
could join me.
Yeah. Yeah. If
Yeah, so
anybody's interested in a water ionizer, I've got a wonderful machine that separates alkaline from acidic water, and it's changing people's lives. I'll be doing some information
right
on
on.
that later.
Send me some of your info that I can tag. I wasn't too worried about the live numbers being the first show, so I'm
Yeah.
sure a lot of people will be watching the recorded version of it. Send me
Okay.
all your contact information again, the way that you
Will
want it
do.
laid out, email, whatever it is. I'll tag it to the
Okay.
video. And
Yeah.
if anyone wants to reach out to you, I'm sure your arms are always open. I think I
Yeah.
could speak for you on that one for the most
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. All right,
Okay.
Shane, I appreciate it, man. It was nice chatting with you, and for everyone that watched, thank you very much, and we'll see you again next Tuesday.
Well, let's just get ready for heaven, Chris. We're going to spend
Thanks, Shane.
eternity together.
That's it, buddy.
All right. See
You
you
take care,
soon.
man.
All
Thanks,
right.
everybody. See you, Shane. Now I just have to figure out how to end it.